Hello and welcome to Off the Tangent podcast with me, Zach Bream. Today I'm joined by a friend from university, Ricky Kim. He is currently doing an electrical engineering bachelor's degree, and we were in a student-led team at university. I think that's how we originally met. I think it's quite funny, Ricky, how we met, because do you want to tell that story a little bit? Because I'm curious from your perspective.
Wait, remind me a little bit.
Yeah, so second year of uni, I became the electrical. There's a team that we're both part of, which was the Motorsport team. So at university, you get different student-led projects.
Yeah.
So our one was they're building a fully electric car.
Yeah.
And I kind of got in this team by random coincidence. One of my new flatmates that I was moving into, he was the team principal, and I said to him, I was he told me about it, and I said to him, can I join the Triple E electrical team?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, go for it. And then a month after, just before starting, he messaged me and said, everyone from the electrical team has left. Do you want to be the team lead? And
Is that how it happened?
That's how it happened. And I was like, yeah, I'll be the team lead. So I joined the team, and I just see that there's no documentation, nothing about any of the electrical. And I at this point, I knew nothing about electronics in cars. So I was didn't know where to start. So then I had to do recruitment for get people to join the electrical team. So I put out, there was 3 phases where initial people had to submit the application, and then I gave them a task to do, and then they came to the interview with the task and talked through it. Yeah. And I feel we did the first stage, people got through, and then the second stage interviews that week. And I got a message from you on Instagram, and we'd never met before. And you just say, hi, you still doing the recruitment? Can you help me? And I was like, yeah, if you want to come in tomorrow, but you'll have to, because that's the last day of recruitment, but you'll have to do the task. And then you came and we got along. But I'm curious, I have so many questions about that when I thought back to it, because first of all, how did you know that I was even the team lead for the electrical? And
Right. Did I not tell you this before?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, do you know Ayman Shaikh?
I feel I definitely recognize the name.
So he messaged you first. He was trying to get in the team, and then I think he found you on LinkedIn. He basically knows everyone. He found you. So
yeah.
And then I wanted to get to SEM. I applied for powertrain first, and I got rejected. I didn't even get an interview.
Yeah.
And then I asked Eamon, and then he basically gave me your LinkedIn. I found your Instagram. And I was just can you give me an interview? And then I think you gave me the last, literally the last interview slot.
Yeah.
And then you got me the job. I think they told me you quite liked me, and then you tried to get me in.
Yeah, because I think it was the thing is, what I realized, these interviews, it was my first time interviewing people, so I was a bit stressed out, and also at the time I was not good at electrical engineering. I did not nearly know enough. You were a lot of the people that came, I'm doing robotics, so it's kind of a mix of all the things. I only did a little bit of electrical. Yeah. And I was supposed to be the lead, and I remember I had to interview people and ask them questions about electrical stuff, and I was just getting it wrong, and they were correcting me and things like that. And all these things were happening, and then it got to the final slot, and I kind of learned what the questions were supposed to be and everything. And I feel you were quite confident in the work. You came in, the task, I gave you circuit you had to design or something, I seem to remember, and you came in and just explained it really well, and all the theory and all the... I asked you how, if you press the pedal in a car to accelerate, it's how would you measure how far the pedal has come down, using a circuit? I remember you told me all the ways, straight away. So yeah, no, that was good. So yeah, that's where we got in.
Did you not think I was a bit weirdly confident?
I think you're definitely a really confident guy, and I think that it's fun to work with people you get on well with. So that's why, when we were figuring out who to do what work, I was I want to work with Ricky because I just get on well with you. So that's definitely always a factor. I think whenever I go for interviews personally, I always try and be likable to the person. I said the other day I went to a school, and the local school here, part of my work with my work, and we did mock interviews for the year 11s, for the 16-year-olds. So we kind of interviewed them for 10 minutes and then gave them feedback. And I said to them as feedback, I was just try and get on as well as you can with the interviewer, because everyone wants to work with their friends.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a little bit of advice.
Yeah.
so it worked out. But anyway, apart from all that, I think that's how we met.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about like your background and how sort of where you grew up and then your like journey to the UK and Tripoli and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I was born in Korea, this little town called Suwon. It's like 30 minutes away from Seoul. And then when I turned 10, I moved to Malaysia. What that happened was my cousin, it's like my distant cousin. We visited them for, I think it was like Christmas or something. But they lived in Malaysia at the time, and I went there with my mom, and then they just give us a tour about like their school and everything, and it was just really nice, like the international schools, and it just felt more like free than the Korean like education system because the education system there is quite strict, and I guess my mom didn't really want to put me through that, and she was also a teacher, so she really knew how strict the education system was.
Mm.
I moved to Malaysia, um, stayed there until sixth form. I stayed in the same school from year five up till sixth form. It was an international school. And then I came here,
Mhm.
started doing triple E, and then I met you.
Yeah, yeah. I think going back to what you said about the international schools,
Yeah.
I think there is definitely something about people that go to schools and international students in general being a lot quite open individuals. I think like at least from my experience, like a lot of the international students I meet are very like willing to like want to make friends and like very open to like new friendships. Like, do you find that being the case as well, being in the UK now?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's more about being exposed to like so many different cultures. You just become a lot more open-minded because when you try to understand different cultures, you're not sticking to your own culture. You're not like you're really opening up your mind. You're just thinking out of the box all the time. Apparently, like people who lived in more than two countries in their lifetime are generally have higher IQs. But I think, yeah, that experience has a lot to do like how your mind thinks and becomes open-minded.
Yeah, I think as well. Like when you move when you're a kid, it definitely is very different. Especially, I don't know how different you've found it moving from like Korea to Malaysia, but at least
Mm,
in my experience, like I moved to France and then we moved back to France to the UK.
mm,
And I was telling my girlfriend about this. The kids were just so immature in the UK compared to France. The difference was quite incredible.
mm.
And the reason why I was talking about it with my girlfriend is because like she's Danish, but the Danish young people are so sophisticated and mature for their age. Like you'll see like a 15-year-old and they're dressed like they're a 40-year-old like woman, and they're yeah, and they're like, but they're really mature. And I linked it back to France, and I said like I think French schools the kids are quite mature, and then in the UK I came here even being when I came back I must have been like 6 years old, and I just remember thinking like the kids in my class were just like they acted like little babies almost.
So you were six and thought they were like immature.
Yeah, well, I think it's just because like you're just treated a lot more like an adult in France.
Yeah, yeah.
You're given a lot of like independence, and we lived in like the countryside, so you kind of go off and like play by yourself and with the neighborhood kids, and then you go to England, and it was like the suburbs of London, and people were quite like coddled.
Yeah.
You mentioned about how like your mum was a teacher in Korea, and I know like Korea, the education system is super strict.
Yeah.
Why did she get into teaching if you feel like she didn't necessarily like the education system there?
I don't think it was like a choice. First of all, both my parents are teachers. My dad, he owns an academy in Korea currently, but my mom, she started teaching when she was in university as like a side hustle. Back then, she made quite a lot of money. I think she made like in like 19 like 80s, 90s, she made like £1,000 a month. It's quite a
Really?
lot. Yeah, yeah.
What? How could you make so much money?
She did go to like the best university in Korea. She went to
Yeah.
Seoul University, and I think there was a lack of like personal tutoring as well.
Mm.
And back then was a time when like education was like really it's still really important now, but like back then the country was really poor.
Mm.
They were really trying to push that education. So a lot of people were willing to pay for that. especially people with money. That's where if you're rich,
Mm.
like you're spending money on education. Yeah, so she did private tutoring university, and then naturally she went to like middle school, high school teaching, and I guess she just stayed there.
Mm.
I don't think my mom really like thought about changing her career.
Mm.
But as she taught that, she realized how stressful it is for students. But also, she's very spontaneous.
Yeah,
I do say like we moved to Malaysia because she thought it's more free there, but it was also like that was part of the reason, and
yeah.
she just it was really like a spontaneous choice. Like we literally just went to our cousin's place. I was like, "Ooh, it's nice," and then we just moved there.
I have to say that's funny you say it like that because that is so similar to our like my experience where my mom she's super like like impulsive and will do things very spontaneously and she literally was like oh let's move to France and like she bought a barn and just like she bought this old barn and just like turned it into a house like for 2 years and then once she finished she's like oh I'm kind of bored now let's go back.
That's really like impressive though. Like, were you raised by your mom then?
Yeah, yeah, my mom like raised us like just a single mom and
Yeah,
when we moved to France we she found this barn and it was in the middle of like a tiny village
yeah.
and then she I don't know if you know what a mobile home is but it's like literally a caravan so she
Uh,
bought a caravan put it outside the barn
uh-huh.
and me and my brother had to share a bed even though we were like I think we were like 5 and 4 at the time
Uh-huh.
and we just shared a bed for like 6 months while this her barn was getting turned into a house and we
Oh
just
my
lived in a
God.
caravan.
That's crazy. I think that explains a lot about how like you think. Like I saw in your other podcast you were talking about like how you went into this like Soviet era bunker, like without anything. Like I was like, what? What? Like, without any masks or anything. Like you probably like inhaled asbestos or something.
Yeah, literally mate I was ill for so long that was awful.
Like that's I could never think of. Like
I think I'm quite. I've definitely inherited that from my mom. I'm quite
yeah,
like a spontaneous, like
yeah,
impulsive person. Like when I get an idea, I'm like that in my head. I'm like, that is the most amazing idea ever. I have to do that. Which I was thinking about perhaps any of the consequences.
yeah.
But you know, there was a thing that you touched upon a little bit earlier that I wanted to talk about was you said how Korea was poor, and then so then they focus heavily on education.
Mm.
Do you think that's why a lot of the countries in the region are so strict and focused on education? Like for example, like China comes to mind, where they're also really strict with their education, and it could be like they even 50 years ago had a lot of their population in poverty and kind of risen up. Do you think it is to do with a country like in recent poverty and the parents maybe experiencing poverty that they're so focused on it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's like the main reason why they're so rich now. Like we're like South Korea is currently rich because of like technology. I mean, like Samsung, like the amount of money they make, like they're responsible for like 20% of the entire country's GDP.
Mm.
Like that's insane.
Yeah, it's mad.
Imagine Amazon like responsible for 20% of the America's GDP. That's insane. That's like some like dystopian thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, like basically in Korea, like their lifetime goal is to get into these big companies to work for them because like in the UK, if you let's say I'm studying Triple E, right? I'm looking for a job. Even if I go into like really big companies or small to medium SMEs, I'll get paid relatively similar. But in Korea, there's like a big pay gap. So if you go into Samsung, you get like your initial salary will be like maybe 30, 40 grand.
Mm.
While if you go into SMEs, it'll be like more like 10, 20 grand.
Yeah.
So it's a massive difference. That's why people are more inclined to go into these big companies. And I mean, they control 20% of the GDP. They make sure that that's what people aim to do. Like they own like universities, like all the top universities that were owned by the big conglomerates, and yeah, it's definitely the main reason why we're so technologically advanced.
Yeah, it is so mad. I think I did watch a documentary once about South Korea, and there's like top three almost like conglomerates there,
Mm,
and like Samsung, as you mentioned, the main one,
mm.
and how there was almost like a test every year for people to get into them. I
Oh,
seem
yeah.
to remember, and then everyone will sort of study for them. Do you know about that?
Yeah, so it's called Suning. It's like basically like A levels,
Mm.
but it's a single exam that basically determines your entire life. So
What?
if you fail this exam, you're like you're
Really? In what sense does it determine your whole life? Like what?
so it basically determines what university you get into, and if you get a good grade, you'll get into the good university. And if you don't get into a good university, you're like you're dumb, like you're useless in life. Like people will just look down on you. Uh,
Really?
like even if you succeed in life, like you make a lot of money,
Yeah.
like that will people will always be like, oh, but you didn't go to like Seoul University or like,
Hmm.
and even if you're like poor, if you went to Seoul University, I'll be like, you're really smart, like you succeeded.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Do you think what? So like this exam,
yeah.
I don't know if you did it because you were like you didn't do it, you moved like international. So, but do you know like what it would encompass? Because in my head, when you say that one exam, do they
Yeah.
mix together like maths and English, like or like Korean
Yeah,
and?
I'm not 100% sure,
Mm.
but I'm pretty sure it's like English, maths, science. I don't think you can choose the subjects you can do. I think it's just the same for everyone. It's like English, maths, Korean, stuff like that. But yeah, I haven't done it. I went to British international school, so I did like IGCSE, which is International GCSE, A levels, and yeah, and then I came here.
Do people obviously from Korea? Do people still ask you like? Do they? Is it sort of like when you meet someone, they ask like, "Oh, what university do you go to try and get a standing of reputation?" Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, I don't really talk to Koreans. Like culturally, I'm quite I think I'm open-minded. So like I don't really work with Koreans. A lot of them are quite close-minded.
Mm.
Like it's hard to be close to them, I would say. But yeah, I think if I say, oh, I'm from like a Russell Group University in the
Yeah.
UK, they'll definitely like look up to me. They'll be like, whoa, like, whoa, you study in the UK, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think to a certain extent we have that in the UK as well,
yeah.
but I'd say only for Oxford and Cambridge.
Mm,
Like obviously, people Russell Group is still important, but I think like at least me being from the UK, and when you meet people and they're like go to Oxford, you're like, oh, that's really cool, and it's quite impressive how much weight it has in the UK.
yeah.
Like for example, one of the other guys that I'm friends with that I've also done podcasts with,
Yeah.
Johan, like he went to Oxford, and I met him at this placement that I'm on now.
Mm,
And I just remember when we first started, like me and him were like a pair, and we spent the whole like he did the summer, so he was only there for 2 months. But the whole 2 months, like when we'd speak to people and he told them they went to Oxford, like you'd visibly see like a reaction, like an impressed reaction sort of thing, and so it obviously it just yeah, it just holds so much weight. It seems like
But I think also in the UK, it is like, in some ways, they think you're like a snob if you like Oxford or Cambridge. But like in Korea, if you went to like Seoul University, you just be like they respect you genuinely.
mm,
Like my grandfather and my mom went to Seoul University.
mm,
So when I tell people that, they're like, oh my God, you're from like such a good family.
yeah.
Like they don't know anything about me, but then like that's the only thing they know, and then they'll just like assume everything else.
Yeah, yeah. I think, see, it's interesting you mentioned about like being a snob going to like one of those universities because, so from that I can imagine that you go to like we went to go to university at the same place like Sheffield University, which is more north. Have you ever like been down south to like London unis or anything?
I mean, I visited London a few times, but I haven't really been to the universities, not really.
Because I'd say like this is where like the class divide comes in the UK where I'd say if you're down south like live near London like I think like going to Oxford Cambridge and like things that would be up north considered snobby is almost like given more respect, I would say.
Hmm.
So like it wouldn't be considered snobby to go like Oxford, Cambridge, or be one of those like sort of people down south. But then a lot of people up north would more consider it like in that sense.
Right.
Like, at
Right.
least from my experience,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that that's definitely a factor that comes into play.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think like even in Sheffield, I think
Mm.
like because like a lot of the societies, the like people from Hallam can join societies from University of Sheffield as well. I think if you say you're from Hallam, they kind of look down on you as well.
There is so much all this through society. I think like humans are so hierarchical. It's
Yeah.
just it's like we're just made to be able to easily meet someone and you just put them in a box of like their position.
Yeah.
And then in some countries it's more obvious than others.
Yeah. I think it's all about like the human brain loves to like simplify stuff. Like we like to think in binary, yes or no. Like we don't like complicating stuff. We like to put things into categories. And it's just like it feels it feels good. It feels like it's controlled and
Mm.
like, organized.
And
But
like understood as well. It's like things that humans understand are not scary.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like once you try to explain it, they're like a lot of people are just like no, like they just it's either yes or no. But
Yeah.
I think the answer is like almost always somewhere in the middle.
Mm.
It's yes or no. But a lot of people don't understand that.
Do you think that's one of the reasons that you like Triple E is that it can all be like it's like clear, it's like binary? Or there
Yeah,
is a right answer. You know how people that's like how someone that might be into humanities, where they like history or art or like
yeah, yeah.
English, and it might be more varied, and it's more like there's not a correct answer. It's more like opinion based. Whereas like in maths and science, it's almost like you know that there is almost like a correct answer.
I guess so. Like I think a lot of the engineers think that. Also because like I just really like technology and like cars and stuff. I think
Mm.
that was my passion since I was young. When I was like 5 years old, like if you show me like a tiny portion of a window of a car,
Yeah.
I would like exactly know the price of the car, the model, the like I think that's the main reason, but
Mm.
also like I like to think logically and I like to know answers like at binary. Yeah, I think with that as well, there's like multiple reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I mean, I did electrical engineering for a year, and then I switched to robotics. But I've kind of got a calling back to electrical now. Like, I'm going to go do my masters in that, and I think
Yeah,
there is something so satisfying about it. How like, when you start to understand how all of the parts of the puzzle work and you can put them
yeah,
together. I think that's my favorite part about engineering
yeah,
is you can really just go. You can see a system,
mm,
and then you can almost like you can go deeper and deeper into it.
yeah,
And just like figure out all it works all the way down to like you go down to the molecular level and you're like, actually studying almost
yeah,
like the atoms or the electrons. Like it's so interesting.
yeah. Like you would see everyday items like TVs or laptops, and then you go like deep down into you would like understand how these work at a quantum level. I think that's the most satisfaction I get studying engineering, like and actually understanding how these things work, like learning all the concepts and how these like currents move and like all these stuff. I think I think that's why like I learn engineering.
I think it's my background is so muddled, right? But so because I didn't do physics at A level, and like I did maths, economics, and business studies, so I was going to go into finance, and then like I decided last minute to sort of like go towards engineering. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just like so I also didn't listen at all at GCSE. I did not understand chemistry or electrons or like when I came to university. If someone asked me what an electron was, I genuinely couldn't tell you. And then I started doing triple E, bro. I started doing electrical engineering, which is literally the flow of electrons,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
even know what an electron was. So it was such a difficult journey, like to keep going on this course and like in engineering without the understanding. But I'm kind of there now, and it is incredible. Is there any piece of technology or sort of fields that you particularly are excited for? Like a few come to mind for me personally, like quantum computing and like robotics. Is there any for you that that you're particularly interested in?
I think recently I've been really into like electrical machines, motors,
Mm.
like traction motors, offshore wind farm motors, generators. Like I think because it's got the physical aspect of it, like you do these and these, the performance increases, it spins faster. I think the moving part of it really interests me.
Mm.
I think with a lot of the other stuff like digital, like chip design or some things, you can't really like see it physically, your work, like your design. But
Mm.
with electrical motors, you can really see like your progress. Like if you improve some stuff, it'll spin faster. It also has to do with like my interest with cars, like electric vehicles and stuff. Like being able to like put so much power in such a small packet, like being able to generate so much torque. Yeah, I think that's the main reason why we like electrical machines.
Yeah, I think motors are very, very cool. To be
Yeah.
honest, before I started this placement, I
Mm.
knew a little bit about motors works, but not completely. And then when I came to this placement, so I work on like turbochargers in the cars,
Mm.
but then I work in like the electronic side of turbochargers. So
Right.
historically, like if someone doesn't know what a turbocharger is, it's basically you have your engine, and your engine is giving off loads of exhaust gases
Yeah.
as it comes out, and then a turbocharger takes these exhaust gases and spins this like turbine inside,
Mm.
and this turbine draws in new fresh air and compresses it and goes back into the engine. So it's basically a way of increasing power to the engine by
Yeah.
compressing air,
Yeah.
and you're using waste gas, so you're actually increasing efficiency by not using any energy. It's brilliant. But so this traditionally has been like a mechanical domain for a long, long time, but now they're introducing electric motors to all of the designs,
Yeah. Yeah.
for so many things. Like if you imagine, like a really easy example to understand is how when you start the car, there's there's no exhaust gases coming out of the engine like immediately. So
Yeah.
then there's no exhaust gases to spin the turbocharger.
Yeah.
It's not it's not giving you any boost at the beginning. So you can use an electric motor attached to the turbine that when you start the car, it instantly spins the turbine up, and then and it works straight away. So I think it is like electric motors you can do so many things with, and also all of the industries like the mechanical, traditionally mechanical industries like automotive, like cars,
Yeah.
are now desperately like trying to incorporate electronics to boost their sort of performance. It's
Yeah.
a great field to get into.
Yeah. Yeah, I think another reason is there's so much potential to like you can literally anything that moves has electrical motors. Like
Mm.
I think my professor said like 20% of I'm not sure about this figure by the way, but like 20% of all electricity use is taken up by electrical motors.
Really?
Yeah, like I mean if you think about it, like there's like just in one car.
Mm.
Like there's like hundreds of motors, like your window blinders, your and like even in modern cars, there's like hundreds more like automatic opening like glove boxes and
Mm.
stuff like that. They have like screens that tilt now. I mean, like if it moves, it's literally an electrical motor.
Yeah.
And like also the like powertrain system, like your starter motors, they're replacing like entire starter motors with electrical motors because like literally you just like you know how when you turn on a car,
Mm.
it goes like and then like if you place a motor in there, it just like starts immediately.
Yeah.
And if you imagine like you know like stop and go system in
Mm.
cars, like traditionally when it like so how it works is to save fuel, when you just stop the car, the engine will turn off, and then when you start again, it will turn back on again. And with a starter motor, it will generate like a vibration. It will just go like do do do, and then
Mm.
you. Or if you use a electrical motor, it's like you can't feel it at all because it's just like a motor.
I think as well the amazing thing about motors is you get like maximum torque instantly.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's like there's no like build up speed. You can just get it straight away.
That's the thing. Like so many car enthusiasts for some reason just hate
Right.
electric.
Isn't it? Isn't it?
Like I love cars and
Yeah.
like for me this is like the future.
Yeah.
Like it generates torque like more power is better, right? Like
Mm.
you can like really in a car, I think it's more about in a normal car, it's more about the torque than the horsepower.
Mm.
Because torque is what you can feel. It's like when you accelerate, that's what pushes you. Like if you have zero torque and like 500 horsepower, you're not gonna move. But like so many people just like hate electric cars.
I think, I had a conversation with this with one of my friends the other day because
Yeah,
he
yeah.
is like mega into cars. He's done a podcast that it hasn't been uploaded yet, but with me, he did it with me, and we talked the whole episode about cars. Like his whole background is like in motorsport. He does a job
Mm,
like painting cars, and
mm,
I've said to him before, I was like, why does you like himself and also a lot of other people hate electric cars? Like, what is this sort of passion there? Um, and I feel like it didn't really come down to anything specific. I think it's just almost like a stigma against it. And I thought about it a lot, and
yeah,
I think it comes down to the fact that me and you, we were born in a generation where electronics are actually amazing. Like
yeah,
we have TVs, we have all our computers, everything to do with tech and
yeah,
electronics is really cool. But for a lot of the people, let's say like 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds who are into motorsport,
yeah,
who are really passionate about it,
yeah,
for them when they grew up, electronics were so gimmicky and like unreliable and they
yeah,
were just
yeah,
seen as a bit shit.
yeah,
And then so something that they're passionate about, which is the engines, and then to be replaced by what in their mind is perhaps a bit of a gimmick,
yeah, yeah,
electronics. With also the lack of sound, like you can imagine, like well, the normal engine is so loud, and then electronics is more like a whirring sound. I think
yeah,
for them, it feels like it's diminishing all the things that they think is the beautiful complexity of it.
yeah,
And the final factor is that a lot of people will understand how an engine works,
yeah.
whereas 99% of people have no idea how an electric motor works at all.
I think I do understand them. Like
Mm.
a lot of engines, like I've driven there's this like BMW experience track
Mm.
around my house in Korea. So you can pay like 30, 40 pounds. They'll let you drive I drove a BMW M2 competition.
Okay, that's sick.
Just let you drive around the track. So there'll be like a instructor car in front of you, and you just have to follow them. And they go like full out. Like I think on the straights I was going like 250 kilometers an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. And I went there like a day after I got my license as well. They just let me in. Like,
Wow. Was it
um,
was it manual? Or was it like one of the paddle
no,
ones?
it was pedal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good.
I don't have a manual license yet. I need to get that soon.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, yeah. Because in Korea, most people get automatic licenses.
Yeah, fair, fair.
I think it's like I know in the UK most people get manual,
Yeah,
but in
I'm
Korea,
I'm literally doing my. I have my driving test booked in 3 months' time.
yeah.
I've just finally got around to doing it.
But yeah, in Korea, like 99% of cars are automatic. Don't quote me on the figure again. It's probably
That's how it feels like.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I get it. Like the engine noise, the feeling of that vibration, like having that
Mm.
control, like feeling the like engine like growl. But I think, have you seen the Ionic 5N?
I haven't. What's that?
It's a electric car that basically simulates an engine.
Hmm.
So a manual transmission as well. Not a manual like a
Like a
paddle
gear.
shift. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So and it's really good.
Hmm.
Like if you put someone in there that didn't know it was electric, they would think it's a like a proper performance like a gasoline car.
Hmm.
So it simulates like when you hit the rev limit, the car will like pull back.
Yeah.
It simulates that. It simulates like the gear shift, so it'll, like push you
Hmm.
when you shift the gears. Like the sound's really realistic, and I think that's like the future of motorsport.
Hmm.
Not motorsport, but like
Like people that want to that like
yeah,
the
just
consumer base.
like because I do agree, electric cars, most of them right now are not fun. Like it's not
Hmm.
fun to drive. Like technically it might be really good, like it gives you instant power and everything. The main thing is it's not fun to drive. Like it doesn't give you that excitement. But I think we will get to a point where that simulation, that fake sound and vibration will be so good, like you will not be able to tell the difference.
I think I don't know how much of a market there is. That's the thing. Like for example, with going back to why people love a normal like diesel car. Obviously, those are factors: the sound and the feel. But I
Mm.
think it's the fact that you know everything that's going on inside it. Like when I've been to car meets and stuff with my friends, they'll
Mm.
have everyone with their bonnets open. You can look inside and you see the engine, you see a turbocharger, you see like you can follow the air
Yeah,
almost around the engine and know what's going on, and all of those factors, right? But the problem is with an electric car, if you went to a car meet, you've got a battery pack, and like,
Oh, look at my battery pack, bro.
yeah,
How
literally.
orange it is.
And it's like no one cares. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Even though I love electronics, it's not really that cool to look at. I mean, you know what a battery looks like. It's not like you're, and you can't really visibly see the flow of electronics the same way that you can almost imagine the air going through. A lot of people wouldn't even understand where to start with that. So I
yeah,
think that's the main thing for. But this is what I was saying. It's the amount of market, the demographic. It's a very small consumer base, I think, that would buy a car um, based on these things. I
yeah.
think a lot of people really don't care what car they get,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and just care about the cost, and that I think that's probably.
I think reliability is the main thing.
Hmm.
Like most people care about. Like I work at Curry's, right? I sell like technology,
Hmm.
and most people who buy like laptops and stuff, like I'll just tell them like the specs and what's good for the money, and they'll just like they'll have the display unit right in front of them.
Yeah,
They wouldn't even touch it. They'll just buy it. Like, yeah,
is
I
that
don't.
what? Because they just completely don't understand what they're looking at, so they'll just buy it based on.
Yeah, but I'll try to explain like, oh, like this one has a nice keyboard, feel it, and they're just
Yeah,
like, I'll just press one button and like, oh, that's nice,
yeah.
and like just like made me realize a lot of people just don't care.
Hmm.
They'll just buy whatever we give them, and they'll look at these reviewers who will go into so much detail that they actually don't care about, and they'll be like, yeah, that's good.
They know what they're talking about. I'm gonna
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. But like I think it's been like that forever. Like, even as like laptops get better and better, the consumers don't really care. Even if they just care that it works and does the job. Yeah. I think
I think the problem lies on foundational knowledge, because the thing is, let's say I don't know, let's say I'm trying to think of something that I know nothing about. Let's say like makeup or something. Like if I was like gonna go buy makeup for my girlfriend,
yeah,
I have no foundational knowledge whatsoever about how any of that stuff works.
yeah.
Like if you need to apply layers to it, or like how like the quality of things, I know absolutely nothing. So if I went and someone's just selling me, I'll probably just like, all right, well, yeah, you're telling me this is good. Like this one does this one does that. I'll just listen to you, because I can't. I'm not interested about it, and I can't be asked to learn about it because it's just this
Yeah,
one
yeah.
off. So I think that in that sense, it's if you go to buy a computer and you know absolutely nothing,
Yeah.
there's so much going on with a computer that I think most people are just like, this is, I'll just buy whatever here, what
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's fair. Like, yeah, I'll do the same if you told me to buy like I don't know. I don't know what I don't know about like
It's actually difficult to try and think what like, nothing about, because it's, you never think about it because it's just so like,
yeah, yeah. And I feel like I get interested in a lot of stuff. Like
mm,
I guess I don't know much about makeup and stuff. Yeah, if you told me to buy like something, like if my girlfriend told me to buy like I don't know, like eyeshadow or something or something, like I'll just find a brush like that looks like it and it's just like
I'm sure this will work.
yeah,
This will
yeah,
do the job.
yeah,
Definitely,
yeah. I
definitely.
guess that's fair, but yeah, it does like for someone who's like really into that kind of things.
Mm,
uh, It does frustrate me when people like don't realize that's useful to them.
mm.
Like I'll explain features and stuff, and they'll just like don't care at all. And like I feel like there's so much effort that goes into designing a certain product that a lot of people just don't care about.
The thing is, I think that most, obviously our background is engineering, so we know how long, a ridiculously long time it takes to just even do the simplest of like design things, or
Yeah,
like you might, I don't even know, like you look at this glass, right, and you think it's just a glass, but someone has literally meticulously measured all of these angles and thought about all the ergonomics of holding it and like
yeah,
drinking it, and they've spent so many hours, and they've had boardroom meetings discussing, and they've been like disagreeing. Someone's like, oh, I think this angle should be 35 degrees, and then they're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
nah, 42 is better. Like all of these things that obviously we know go on, but most people just think, oh, it's just a glass, mate. It's not that deep. I think in terms of technology that's also interesting with cars is self-driving cars, because I think that market for at what point do you think that a lot of the cars are going to start being replaced by self-driving cars? Because as we're talking about people that don't necessarily care about cars,
Yeah.
a lot of people would think, well, me and you might personally think, oh, I enjoy driving the car, it's fun, we like the feeling and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of people think, I would much rather just chill and sleep and the car drive itself and all this stuff. So what are your thoughts on that? When do you think it's going to become more prevalent?
I think we already have the technology to be able to make self-driving cars. It's just it takes time for people to accept the fact that more trust the vehicles that self-drive. I mean, Tesla's already doing it in a lot of places. You just enter a destination and a lot of people just fall asleep. So it is, I mean, it's already starting. It's becoming reality. I think definitely within the next decade, we'll definitely see self-driving cars around us, just a regular thing. And I think personally as well, I love driving, but like in Korea, I sometimes drive a lot because my mom, so my girlfriend's in Korea. She's doing a year in industry, and she lives around 2 hours away from my mom, and I'll drive back and forth even every day.
Mm.
It's actually, if there's no traffic jam, it's like a 30-minute drive.
Yeah.
Traffic jam all the time, so it's always 2 hours. And things like that, I'm just like, I hate driving.
Yeah.
Like I love driving when there's just like a open road, I can just like go around the curves and everything. But just like stop and go traffic, I just want to like kill myself.
Yeah, it's very long.
Yeah, if there's just like a single button I can press and I can just chill.
Yeah.
I'll definitely do that.
Mm.
And like going back to car enthusiasts, like there's a lot of people who's against self-driving, or it's just gonna take away all the fun and everything. But you don't want you're not having fun in stop and go traffic.
No, I think as well that there's so many benefits to self-driving cars, but I think a lot of them come from if everyone was in a self-driving car. Because the thing is, if you had all self-driving cars that could communicate with each other, you wouldn't need traffic lights or anything because they could almost just like flow at the same time and be aware of crashes. And then the other big thing is when, like, let's say you're on the motorway and someone in front of you slows down and then you slow down and everyone eventually comes to a stop, further back behind you. That would just never happen with self-driving cars because there would be no reaction time. They could instantly accelerate and slow down when is needed.
Yeah.
So the congestion problems would just be so lowered, it would be unbelievable.
I think my worry is being able to drive a car being illegal because of things like that. It would be so much safer if if the robot just controls everything. Because if it's just like a whole network of connected cars, there'll never be any incident. Like if something stops, the car behind will instantly know that it stopped.
Yeah.
And it's like slow down. And it'll be like so efficient. Like imagine like the whole world has a single system of connected cars. Like it would just be like really efficient transportation. Like that would just be like heaven. Like
Yeah.
yeah, but I know that that's never gonna happen because people like driving, and if they ban driving in the UK, I know people are gonna die, you know?
Yeah. I think it will happen, but not for like 150 years, I think. Because the thing is, I mean, Europe has already said that you can't make any more diesel cars after 2030. That has to go fully electric.
Yeah.
So that's pretty soon. That's in 5 years, and you're already going to get stop production of diesel cars, like petrol cars. And then you have more and more electric. And then once everyone is electric, I feel like then the adoption of self-driving, the tech will get a lot better as well. And then once you get like even half the people in self-driving, then you're going to get, and it becomes cheaper and cheaper. I feel like it will just become more of a minority people that buying the cars that are diesel, because they'll become more expensive, no production of them, so there'll be a low amount in market, higher price, and no one will buy them. Also, electricity will become cheaper, so no one. It just doesn't make any sense to get
Yeah.
them. And then at that point, I think you'll see a slow, just gradually, it will just phase them out.
Yeah, I definitely think like petrol and diesel cars will be like something like only the niche enthusiasts and like the rich people will have.
Mm.
Um, like normal people, as I said, really don't care if they have an electric car or not. Actually, most people like prefer electric cars because it's so much easy. Like, have you driven a like? Oh, you don't have a license,
License, yeah.
but it's like it's so much easier to drive. Like, let's say on a hill, so many people are scared of like the clutch slipping and they're rolling back. Like even in an automatic car, you have to control the throttle so that the wheel doesn't slip and stuff.
Yeah.
With an electric car, you don't have to think about that. Like it's all about convenience, and humans always love convenience, and it's so easy. And like in Teslas now, they don't even have a gear shifter. Like
Yeah.
it shifts by itself. Like
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah, yeah. So if you're parking
Mm.
or in front, and if there's like a wall in front of you, it will just switch into reverse, and it will just go backwards, and then switch in. And like people have said that it's so easy,
Yeah.
like it works, and like it's just gradually small changes like that that's just gonna evolve into
Mm.
self-driving. It's just gonna like I said, it's gonna take over stop and go traffic first, and then it'll go into parking. I mean that's already happened
Mm.
with like stage two self-driving, and then it's gonna evolve into like taking turns, taking directions, and yeah, that's it. That's self-driving, you know?
Yeah. And I think as well, like, I mean, talking about these massive, like, if there was one connecting network everywhere, I
Mm,
feel like when you get a better understanding, like when AI is improves,
mm.
then it will. There's a chance of having like bigger networks like that that could control
Yeah.
all of those individual elements of the system at once. Do you know much about like quantum computing? Have you seen like the recent? There's been a lot of like developments in that field. Like, do they teach you anything about quantum computing and electrical engineering?
Not really. I mean, I've seen like the Majorama chip,
Yeah, yeah.
how like amazing it is, but I understood nothing. Like I know it's like instead of thinking like instead of zeros and ones, it's like A B C D E F G like,
Mm.
and that's literally all I know. Like yeah, I'm not too knowledgeable in that field, but
It's quite confusing to be fair to get into. I think that there's a lot of it's not intuitive to learn because it's based on like quantum mechanics, which itself is not intuitive.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but I feel like you're along the right lines of the A B like C D analogy. Like,
yeah, yeah,
I think the best way that I would describe it to someone is almost how in binary normal classical computers you have everything based on zeros and ones, as you said,
yeah,
and then if you imagine like 0.5 is like the middle of 0 to 1,
yeah,
you have an infinite numbers between 0
yeah,
and 1.
yeah,
So
yeah,
then quantum, the idea of quantum is that you have a particle, and usually like it might be positively or negatively charged, like the idea of it being positive or negative. And in quantum mechanics and like quantum computers, when you have those particles, it's the idea that when you're not observing it, when you're not looking at it, you don't know what state it's in. So it can
mm,
take up any of these states between 0 and 1, any of these numbers. So
right,
it's almost like when you're doing a calculation with it, because it is not 0 and 1 when you're like just leaving it to do its thing,
yeah,
it's working out all of the numbers between it. And that's how you can do like millions of simulations at once because you're doing all of the possible combinations of zeros and ones. And
mm,
then at the end, you have to use like probability to get an answer because you don't know exactly if it was 0 and 1. You have to use like, oh, did majority of the answers come to this? And that's why you might have like 5% error and a 95% chance to get a correct answer. So then that's why as quantum computers improve, you get that error percentage is getting lower and lower, so you know it's correct more of the time. And that's why, as we see improvements in the field, like you know it's getting better because of that error reduction.
yeah,
But I think that in terms of the reason why I mentioned it is because we were talking about techs we're interested in. I think that for me is the tech that I'm super interested in at the moment. I don't think I could ever work in it because for anyone to work in quantum computers, you have to be like godly physics understanding. Like that stuff is just way above my head. I just
yeah,
have a very base general understanding of it. But I think it's just a tech that I'm quite interested in following because
yeah,
it's going to have a lot of like impacts on
yeah, yeah,
current technologies.
yeah. I mean, you never know. I think if you have an interest in something,
Mm.
you're we're gonna be better than anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see. I think, to be honest, my field is tailored towards robotics right now. I think that's the other field that I'm super interested in and
Yeah.
realistically going to work in. I mean, my theory is that pretty much every single household will have a robot in the house in like 10 years time
Oh yeah, yeah.
because commercially it will become so cheap to make that tech and it will be made on a mass scale that
Yeah.
it will be distributed to everyone. I mean, you have pretty much every major company right now is working on humanoid robots. You have
Yeah. Yeah.
Tesla, Nvidia, Meta, Apple, and a
Yeah.
humanoid robot is just a robot that looks like a human, basically, and
Yeah.
acts like a human.
Yeah.
And the tech is so impressive. So I think about how far like AI has gone in the last 3 years. Like ChatGPT only came out like 3 years ago, and now AI is just every company uses it. It's mass made. I feel like the same is going to happen for robotics. Like we're so on like the brink of like a robotics like revolution. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, I think definitely for like everyday tasks,
Mm.
like doing your dishes, folding clothes and stuff. I think that's the main market people want them for
Mm.
because it's again about convenience, right? Like doing all the chores. I think a lot of there's a lot of startups that focus on that, like doing all the cleaning, and I think that's what a lot of people want.
So a robot that fit that description, how much would you personally have to pay to like? Would you ever have that in your house to have like do all the chores and everything? Like, how much would you pay for something like?
If I had money, which I don't, um, like let's say I was earning like maybe like 3 grand a month,
Yeah.
probably like three, four, five, even 5 grand.
I,
Like it's investing into time, right? Like
mm.
so much time.
And if people spend like, a lot of people will buy like an iPhone for at least £1,000.
Exactly. And like in Curry's, most people take this thing called FlexPay. So they'll split into like buy now, pay later,
Mm.
interest payments. Yeah, people will definitely do that to buy robots. I mean, they're already doing it to buy just cars and stuff. But yeah, I think like 5 grand is reasonable if I'm earning 3 grand. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable price that you can pay, and I think because I just think the tech is going to become so cheap, and they're going to be so. It's just going to be like a human doing tasks. That'll be as quick. And the
Mm,
thing is, as well, with the improvement of large language models and AI, you could
mm,
so easily have an AI inside the robot that
mm.
responds to tech, like speaking to it and say, like, "I'll go do this."
Yeah.
So it's almost like all coming together at the similar times.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm also really interested in like Internet of Things. Um, I have this like business idea of like you know how um like all the smart ring doorbells, indoor cameras, pet cam, baby cam, even dash cams, like they're all just smart cameras.
Mm.
I had like a idea of like a modular camera system that you can use for all of these. Because if you implement AI, so like object recognition, like movement tracking and stuff like that, you can do every single one of these tasks with just one
Mm.
camera. You would have like a modular system where there'll be like a foundation camera, it's just like a circle, and
Mm.
then you'll have modules that it attaches onto. Like for like a baby cam, you might need to like swivel and move. Um, you'll have like a swivel module, you just tap it on, and
Mm.
it'll just like move and track your baby.
And it can use these motors we were talking about as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like a fridge cam,
Yeah.
like you just like put it inside your fridge, and you
Mm.
can access it from your app. It has object recognition, so it'll like see what ingredients you've got.
That's such a good. It would make a list of all the stuff in your fridge, and you
Yeah,
could be at the supermarket, and you can have like a stock of almost like what you always have in your
yeah,
fridge,
yeah,
and it would like say you don't have this, you need to get this in
yeah,
the
yeah.
shop straight
I
out. That's
mean,
brilliant. Yeah.
that already exists. Like all the top-end Samsung fridges, smart.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, they do. I mean, we've got a Samsung fridge in store that's got like an entire tablet built into it. Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that. No way.
It's like a 2 grand American style fridge.
Yeah.
And like there's like a decent soundbar in it as well, so we'll play music from this fridge. But,
No way.
like these things are happening, like, and a lot
Wow.
of people don't realize. And yeah, I think it's a good idea if you like just combine them all, make into one product, so that it's good for the environment as well because you can recycle them and Um, like if you don't need like a baby cam anymore, you can just use it as like a doorbell and stuff like that.
I think whoever makes this user-friendly, elegant ecosystem first will take off. Because the thing is, like, let's two examples come to mind of people that do this well is Apple and Tesla. Apple is like the familiar one. You've got AirPods, you've got a MacBook, you've got iPhone. Like everything goes nicely and seamlessly together. And then the other one, which is Tesla, and a lot of people don't know all of what Tesla does, but there's so many things and they all play together. So you've
Yeah.
got the Tesla cars,
Mm.
you can get solar panel roof tiles made by Tesla that look like roof tiles, so you can get
Yeah.
them in your house,
Yeah.
which connect to your Tesla battery, like home battery
Yeah.
pack that can be charged using the power, and then also power your home electronics.
Yeah.
And then you park your Tesla in the garage, and you've got your Tesla like from the battery pack to just
Yeah.
charge it, and it's so nicely integrated and together. And I think, for example, that sort of modular like integrated system you're talking about, I think if like making that nice integrated ecosystem where all the things work together would be so
Yeah.
like such a brilliant idea.
I think ease of use is so important in the success of a product. Like, I think a lot of companies don't realize how much people value ease of use and like simplicity, especially these days where like people's lives are so complicated. I've actually read this book. I've got it right here. Wait.
Yeah,
It's called The Simpler Life, but it says how like never in human history we actually like create fantasize for like minimalism, simplicity. Like always more is better. Like even in the past, like ancient China, for example, like you see all the architecture and stuff. You see like if it's simple, you're poor. Like if it's more complex and there's no more designs, you're rich. Like even all the like European architecture and like if you had more, if it was bigger, more like that was the symbol of being rich and that was symbol of power. But like nowadays, people crave minimalism and simplicity, and it comes down to like people craving something they don't have. So in the past, when people were poor, like they didn't have a lot of stuff. Like they didn't have food. They always had like really simple food. Just like in Asia, they would have like just like rice and vegetables or like soup, and like you had like one bed in your house. Nowadays, like we have so much stuff in our
yeah,
house. Like,
and
you know,
infinite choice as well.
yeah, there's like so much choice out there. All this people crave simplicity. All these really rich people building um mansions that are like super minimalistic. There's like, I mean, look at like Kanye West. Have you seen their house?
I haven't. No.
It's literally like all beige.
Yeah,
Everything is beige. It's like, how do you live in that? Like, you must be a psychopath.
yeah,
But that's what people crave. Look at all the like popular designs of technology and stuff. People really like minimalism, like iPhones and like Johnny Ive. And we're going like this is a trend. Like simplicity is a trend. And
I mean, to link it back to what we talked about earlier,
yeah,
I mean, we talked about how for a lot of people, they don't care about all the details
yeah,
of these things like the computers or the cars, and maybe this could point to why like there's so many complicated things in the world, like detailed things, and everything has its story, and it's like, do people don't want to necessarily buy into all of that stuff? They just want to have its simple task and it do its thing and kind of
yeah,
leave it at that.
yeah, exactly. There's so many people that come to curries that complain about how complex things are and like how it used to be good in the past. Like you literally go in a car these days, and a lot of people will never know every single function of that car.
Yeah, you, yeah, got
My mom's friend drives like £100,000 Volvo. She just drives it. She never uses any of the functions. Like I told her it has like self-driving and everything. I was like, what? She was like so surprised. Like I'm just like getting so angry. Like you pay for all this, you literally just drive it, and like so many people do that.
yeah. I think tech for me, because I'm into tech and I know I'm so used to using things that are well designed, like interfaces that are designed, websites that are all nice.
Yeah.
When I see something that's so terrible, I'm like, it angers me, right? So, for example, the other day, I went on this website and I was like, you know how every website, you'll go on a website and usually it will have the search symbol somewhere on the main home screen at the top, and you
Yeah.
just click it and then you can type in what you're looking for, right? Bro, there was no search symbol on this website where you need to search for things. And I was like, I was on the phone with my girlfriend. I was like, there is no way that they have not put I know it's here somewhere. I
Yeah.
just couldn't believe that it was so hard to find. And then there was like a drop down menu, and all the way at the bottom of the drop down menu was the search button. And I was like, I never in my entire life have I seen a website designed where they put a search thing in the drop down. And I was like, this is so nuanced, but to me, it really, I don't know why it bugged me on another level. It's because I know that someone has sat there and designed this website. So that means that it was a conscious choice to put this there.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, who's dumb enough to do this? But it was definitely on my mind.
Yeah, no, like I've recently changed from all my life I was a Android Windows user.
Mm.
Like I have a MacBook, iPhone, um like I even have like Apple Watch, everything now. I'm like fully Apple ecosystem.
Yeah.
But like one thing I've noticed was they would hide like you said, they would hide some of the menus inside menus so
Mm.
that the initial menu looks cleaner. But that just frustrates me because you're sacrificing functionality for simplicity. I think you can have simplicity without sacrificing functionality. Like in an Android, you can just like swipe from the edge to go backwards. But in an iPhone, you have to press like top left button all the time.
Mm.
And it's not cohesive as well. In some apps, if you do that, it does go back. But like in the like Apple designed apps, it doesn't do that. And that just frustrates me.
It's very frustrating, like especially in that is such a good point in about the only thing I can think of in Apple like interfaces which I dislike is that because it's almost like as well every time you click into a folder, it will take you in there, and then you've got to try and find a setting, and then you realize like you're actually in the wrong one. So you've got to end up going through every single one of the options, the sub menus, and
Yeah.
checking them. It just takes so much longer.
And like in a MacBook as well, if you go to Finder, you can't um cut the all the files and then paste them. You have to like drag them. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like, why? You just like let me just cut and paste. It's not that hard.
yeah, fully.
Yeah, I'm not a programmer, but like you can just program that. It's not like a lot of liners of codes.
Yeah, fully. Well, I think we're coming towards the end, so I want to ask you a quickly like final little thing.
Yeah.
Was the next few years to you, coming towards the end of your studies, what are your like plans? See, I have in the back of my memory that we have talked about how in Korea you have a drafting system. We have to go to the military.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you still have to do that? Is that something you have to go back to do now after uni, or how does it
Yeah.
work?
I think my plan right now is I think I'm gonna try to get some work first, like any internship or work experience I can get, and then I'll go to military so that if I come back, I'll have work experience and I'll have like it'll be easier for me to get a job. Because if I just go after university, the chance of me getting a job like after 2 years is pretty slim.
It's difficult.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to get a British citizenship, so
Mhm.
but it is quite difficult. Like you have to work and then you have to work 5 years and then get the ILR, which is indefinite leave to remain. And then I think like 3 years after that, you can apply for citizenship. But yeah, it does stress me out sometimes. If I do have to go, like I'll go. I think I try to like take every opportunity I get as like to improve myself. Like if I do go to military, I'll learn more like discipline and like I'll be more fit. Like I'll train.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it'll just be such a different environment for me because like I've lived overseas for over like 10 years. It'll be hard talking to Korean people, especially because if I do go late, I'll be with um like younger people who are like 3, 4 years younger than me. And in Korea, your age is like a big thing. So it'll be difficult for me to, because there'll be people higher up than me that's younger than me. So I'll have to listen to them and everything. Um, yeah, I think if I do have to go, it'll be a good experience, I think. I'll try to make the most out of it, but ideally.
No, I completely understand where you're coming from. I think it's before talking to you, it's something that I so took for granted because it's almost like it's like you don't have a choice, and
Yeah,
I think that's what's the most difficult part of it is you just have to go.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's for me the thing that I would struggle with the most is being forced to do something that I'm not like
yeah,
wanting to necessarily do.
yeah. I don't know. It's a lot to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah, like about my career path and everything. Like I do ultimately I do want to start my own business.
mm.
I think that's my passion. I think that's what I love doing. I don't really like listening to other people. But I'll see where life takes me. And I think my priority is just my girlfriend. That's what makes me the happiest. And as long as we're together, I think it's fine.
Yeah, no, it'll all work out. I think. I mean, in that sense, like we're the same. Like that's why I'm moving to Denmark. Like, I just want to be with my girlfriend now. Like I think it's difficult being long distance and you've obviously just started that like long distance. It does make you stronger, and I think it will it will definitely bring you both closer together. And I think also the being apart makes you realize like how much it is an importance in your life.
Yeah,
Yeah, but thank you for coming on the podcast, Ricky. It's been very fun. I've enjoyed the chat,
no problem. That was really
and
fun.
we'll have to connect again after military.
No, don't say that.
You'll be a changed man, like be a strict
Yeah,
Korean man after that.
like I'll be bald. I'll be like.
You won't even be able to fit in the camera frames as well. All right, cool. Well, thanks very much. Have a good day.
You as well.